Good evening. I'm Tim Carroll, instructor at Texas A&M University Commerce. It's a pleasure to welcome you to the Allen City Council Candidates Forum. Tonight's forum is sponsored by the Friends of the Allen Public Library, the Allen Rotary Club, and the Rotary Club of Allen Sunrise. We want to thank the City of Allen for their help in providing the location and the technology to record this important forum, which is designed to give you, the voter, the opportunity to listen and to learn about our City Council candidates. Special thank you to the League of Women Voters for their assistance and guidance. We truly appreciate all they do to ensure a nonpartisan forum and support the electoral process in the Allen community. Finally, we want to thank the Boy Scouts and their leaders from Troops 224 and 1299 for their support as stage crew. So now we'll start with the forum. Before we begin, candidates, I will give you some of the ground rules which kind of set the stage for this. The forum is being recorded and it will be available for viewing in its entirety on ACTV. And a link to the video will also be provided to each candidate, and also the Rotary Club of Allen, Sunrise, Rotary will all be able to put it up on their social media platforms. Our goal is to get this out to as many people as we can. Members of the public had the opportunity to submit questions via email. Any questions submitted have been screened and may have been combined or reworded, things that had similar subjects. Candidates will be able to give opening remarks in order in which they are listed on the ballot. The closing remarks will be in reverse order, and we've assigned random speaking order for responses to various questions that have come in from the community. And all candidate statements will be timed. We have a timekeeper down there. Show us your sign. There, you got a big time sign. There he is. And timekeeper will keep track of the time, of course. Please stop promptly and try to wrap up your comments when the time's up. And we do ask that we try not to make references to other candidates in your remarks unless it's relevant. So that's where we're at. And we're going to go ahead and start. In the first session, we have the candidates for place one. I want to introduce all of them. We have Darren Mice, Nathan Polsky, Andre Hines, and Dwight Burns. We have two other candidates, Christopher Gaspard and Malcolm Wilkinson, who are unable to participate in the forum. So we have four candidates for place one who are in the first round here. And so each candidate has 2 minutes for an opening statement, and we're going to start the process with Darren Mice. So Darren.
All right, thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Darren Mice. I'm running for City Council Place 1. I'd like to thank the Friends of the Allen Public Library and the Rotary Clubs for sponsoring this forum. My wife, Susan, and I, we moved to Allen 5 years ago. We were living in the colony, and we had decided to build our forever home. We both worked from home, and we could have lived anywhere in the Metroplex. Our decision to move to Allen was one of the easiest big decisions that we've ever made. This is a great city, and I just want to do my part to help keep it that way. One of the biggest assets that I'll be able to bring to the City Council is my professional business experience and leadership. I am a director of account management with an S&P 500 company where I secure multi-million-dollar contracts with the insurance industry. I oversee a team of national account managers and account managers. I'm responsible for books of business that generate revenues in excess of $250 million per year. So I'm excited about the opportunity of bringing that aptitude and critical thinking, those skills that are required in my position, my profession, to our City Council. My number one priority will be to lower the city property taxes for our homeowners. I'm the only person running in place one that has made the commitment to adopt the no new revenue tax rate. All candidates seem to talk about first responders, but again, I'm the only person running in place one that openly states that I will never support defunding the police. I've talked and listened to hundreds of residents, and the overwhelming majority that do not want any more apartments. And no surprise, I'm the only person running in place one that openly states that I do not want any more new apartments. So my name is Darren Mice. I'm running for place one. I appreciate your support.
Thank you, Darren. Next candidate, Nathan Polsky.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Nathan Polsky. I am a candidate for City Council Place 1. I've been a resident of Allen for roughly 7 years and a resident of Collin County for over 30. Growing up, I got to see how much Allen has grown and how beautiful it's become, which is why I decided to settle here with my family. I had never been one to be interested in politics. I always thought of it as something that was very complex, something I didn't want to get involved with. However, the past year has shown just how much control the government has over our lives, and that disheartens me. I'm here in the hope to give back those freedoms to everyone in our city. The freedom to choose where your money goes, the freedom to choose how to live your own life, and the freedom to choose how to run your own business. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan. Next candidate, Andre Hines.
Good evening. My name is Andre Hines. I'm running for Place 1, Allen City Council member. Been a resident of Allen, Texas for 14 years, Precinct 218, and I am CEO of A Day Therapy Services, which is an independent contracting company providing therapy in the home health services. As a healthcare professional, I am really looking to improve the health of Allen itself by working, improving the financial as far as rejuvenating the downtown of Allen, working with the COVID vaccination process that is currently in place to improve it, to make it accessible for not only Allen residents, but for all surrounding residents. And also work with the city fire and police department in improving, making sure that we have mandatory mental health and diversity training for all our public servants. Thank you.
Thank you, Andre. And our final candidate in this round is Dwight Burns.
Hi, y'all. Again, I'm Dwight Burns. I want to thank the Allen Library for hosting this event, and Rotary and all the other folks who helped to make this thing happen. And thanks, Tim, for you moderating tonight. I should note that about 13 years ago, I actually was in your spot. I was a moderator for a candidates forum right here in this room for an Allen ISD candidates forum. That's a part of my 20 years of civic participation and civic leadership in this town that I love so much. And for 30 years, I've devoted my whole academic, professional, and personal life to local government management, local government policy making, and local government finance. I've got 4 priorities I want to focus on if I'm lucky enough to be a council member. I want to help continue growing our economic base so we can keep lowering the tax rate. I want to help to enhance our central city neighborhood with help from and guidance from its current residents and businesses. I want to maintain our high-quality city services, especially police, fire, and infrastructure. And fourth, I want to continue working to develop multimodal transit solutions, but in a way that works for Allen. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dwight. We're going to go back now. We're going to focus on an individual question and give you an opportunity maybe to highlight something that you just mentioned in your opening comments. So we're going to start with Darren. And the first question, and we'll give you a second to absorb this, but the first question is, what change would you like to see most in Allen, and what would you do to make that change happen?
Oh, yeah, so I think the change that we need to see is in our central business district, our downtown area. So the revitalization that will not happen overnight, but I think Mayor Ken Folk's on the right path with getting a board put together of residents, and we need to get some residents that reside down there to have a say, so that we can take a plan that's acceptable to the residents and provide it to the developers, the couple developers that own the majority of the property, and at least give them a path.
Okay. Andre, next. Same question.
The change I would like to see most in Allen primarily would be, I guess, the dealing with the pandemic that's currently in place. Making sure that, like I said, it's accessible for all residents and surrounding residents. I think working on that process to improve it will make Allen safer and bring business back to where it used to be.
Dwight.
I'm going to go back to the central business district and central city neighborhoods. I would like to see a more vital or central city neighborhood that has more vitality. This area is already the heart of our city, and I want to see more. About 20 years ago, 25 years ago, I'm getting old, I was the chief of staff to a council member in Austin. And one of my biggest goals was to develop a plan for what's called traditional neighborhood development in one of our underutilized neighborhoods in Austin. People talk about how great a suburban community is, and I agree to some extent, but there's also something better than suburban. Traditional neighborhoods, the way that were built before the highways, with walkable neighborhoods, with neighborhood retail, with shared green space. I want to work with our residents and businesses to work on developing our Central City neighborhood.
Okay, and Nathan.
My focus would be primarily on the budget itself for the city. There are a lot of tax burdens with the public properties, parks, and other facilities that I feel that privatizing those, getting and removing the taxes from the residents can help lower the property taxes and make everyone's affordability much more reachable.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, question number 2, and some of these questions kind of walk right on the same territory, so you have a chance to go back and revisit some comments. Number 2, this question will start with Andre. What are your views on residential development in the city, and what actions do you feel should be taken by the city council, if any? Yes.
I think looking at the residential communities in Allen, the first thing we need to do is really try to rejuvenate the downtown Allen. Looking at surrounding cities and their downtown and their attractions, I think Allen has somewhat slid back compared to the other cities. So trying to improve the residential areas in Allen and surrounding the downtown, and working on improving, reducing taxes for residents.
Okay. Dwight?
I was looking through some of my notes. After I finished public policy school down at UT, go Longhorns, I was a policy analyst for the Texas Senate. And I was tasked with being the subject matter expert on affordable housing in the state of Texas. And with that, I developed a yearning ever since then to advocate for affordable housing, mixed-use development. Allen is always going to be a predominantly single family oriented city. But we are developing, where appropriate, multifamily, townhomes, and we should do that. What we should not do as leaders is ever say no new apartments. Number one, that's a promise that you can't keep, and it's a sign of a lack of knowledge and leadership in public policy to say that.
Darren?
Yeah, so bringing in affordable housing to Allen is not what the residents want. And I would encourage our candidates to go out and speak with more people, because the overwhelming response, when you go out and talk to 50 people, 45 of them do not want more apartments being built. So that's the feedback from our residents. So going down the path of bringing in multimodal transit, affordable housing, that's not what Allen is. You know, if people want urbanization, they move south. You don't move to Allen because you want mass transit and affordable and low-income housing. You move here because you love our communities, you love our neighborhoods, and you choose that lifestyle over urbanization.
Okay. Nathan?
So I'm a firm believer of property rights. Whoever owns the property should have the choice to build whatever they want there, as long as it meets within the zoning ordinance. That being said, if it's going to be a single-family residence, if it's going to be a multifamily residence, that should come down to really the community that surrounds that specific area and the deed owner to that land.
Okay, we're going to go to the next question, which has already been mentioned by several, so I'm going to ask it a little bit different way. But the question is, what are your thoughts on economic development activities in Allen, particularly with respect to the Central Business District? And since we've already taken a shot at that, let's talk specifically to what actions do you think the city should take or become involved in related to the Central Business District? And we'll start with Dwight.
Yes, mixed, continuing to, and, you know, and as I go around and talk from to people door to door, or to forums, neighborhoods, and actually listen to other candidates, there's a lot of shared value with regard to what we want to see in economic and community development in our downtown area. Across the political spectrum, you hear people say, you know what, I want walkable neighborhoods, I want appropriate retail that I can walk to from my house, go to the store down the street, or have shared green space and park and hike and bike trails. And that's the kind of central city we want to see. We want to be able to use a carrot and stick approach with developers that are here to try to encourage them to develop in a way that's appropriate.
Nathan.
For the CBD, I'm going to go back to my stance on private property rights. Whoever owns the land down there, and I believe there's a couple different developers that own it at the moment, fundamentally they should be the ones making the decisions what's being done. Now they can get their input from the citizens, from the residents that are in that area, to get their feedback and make their build the choices. But as far as the city itself mandating, here's what needs to be built, here's what needs to, here's what needs to be developed, that shouldn't be the city deciding that. Thank you.
Andre.
I think it's definitely working with developers as far as trying to come up with an approach where we have not only apartments, condos, housing in the area, but also working to improve, to make sure that we have small businesses in that area for the people in the community to, basically work and also provide services for the community.
Darren.
Yep, so a couple of years ago with the Wolverine development, that ended up failing because we did not have the proper citizen input. And so, again, Mayor Kent Folk is going about it the right way and developing a committee of 12 residents to really put together a roadmap to provide to developers as this is the direction we're willing to go. And so, and we are, that most of us, a lot of candidates anyhow, we are aligned on this. Citizen input is key. That's absolutely key. We failed without it already, so that's the first step.
Thank you. The next question, everyone has mentioned something about maintaining or lowering the tax rate over time. So the question I propose is, how should the City Council balance the tax rate and then also the delivery of high-quality services that residents have come to expect? And Darren, we're going to start with you.
Yeah, so I'm absolutely convinced, and I'll openly state it, I will not approve the next, if I'm elected, I will not approve the next budget, yearly budget, unless we adopt the no new revenue tax rate. We have enough growth. The tax base is growing, and we continue to put the burden on our existing homeowners. So if you're, as far as delivering services, the delivery of services obviously critical, but the service is not decreasing. Our response times are maintained. We're near best in class on both fire and police. So it's not a case of we have to do one or the other. And we just need to reduce the tax burden to our homeowners.
Thank you. Nathan.
So I'll just come out and say that any form of forced taxation is theft. That being said, as far as balancing the budget, I would go back to a $0 start, any tax increase, any plan that comes across City Council that is asking for more tax money, I would vote no on, principle alone. Any services that the city provides, they could be privatized with a third party that can manage it better, run it better, more efficiently, and then people should be allowed to pay for those services that they wish to use. Or if they don't want to use the city services, go with another private industry. Thank you.
Dwight?
Whenever we talk about revenues in local government and taxation, we have to put it in context of maintaining a structural balance between operating revenues recurring in 1 year and recurring expenditures in 1 year. For almost 10 years, y'all, I worked as a vice president senior analyst in the private sector for Moody's Investor Service. I issued credit ratings to cities, counties, school districts, and sat in committee and helped determine the credit ratings for whole states and whole national governments. I voted in committee on Allen's credit rating. And what we always wanted to see was make sure that not only were expenditures not more than revenues every year, we always want to make sure that revenues are set at a level that you can handle those expenditures and maintain liquidity and reserves. That's how you maintain a AAA credit rating. And I have some tricks of the trade that I want to share with the staff if I'm elected.
Thank you. And Andre?
I think the first thing that would need to be done is to actually look at the budget and see where we may be overspending. If it's overspending on one aspect of the budget, and if we can reduce the spending to shift that spending to another aspect of the budget. I think that in a nutshell would be the first, I guess, thing to look at before just throwing out information as far as how to reduce the budget. It's looking at what's been spent in the past years.
Thank you. Our next question, which is question number 5. What will you do as a council member to ensure the diverse population feels welcome in Allen and safe in Allen and has a voice in city government? And we'll start with Nathan.
Transparency would be key. Social media is a good start for those that have access to it, but getting the information out to everybody who does not have access would be, a first step. As well, school choice, allowing residents to choose which school they want to attend and make the schools actually work for their students would help bolster some of those individuals as well.
Okay. Andre?
I think putting together, like a City of Allen, public service announcement that deals with diversity, shows diversity. As I stated, and part of the one of the missions that I have is if I become city council member, is to promote that our police and fire department also receive diversity training and also mental health training. So making them more, I guess, balanced when dealing with individuals.
Okay. Darren?
Yep. So community outreach does not necessarily have to equate to spending a lot of money. What I would like to see going forward is 2 council members once or twice a month meeting with our different diverse population of Allen. That's a start. That helps people have some type of immediate venue, some type of option for communication. And then it's education. You use that type of forum and format to educate that this is a very open government that we have. Everybody's welcome to come in every meeting and participate and watch and listen and learn.
And Dwight?
Allen is an incredibly diverse community in and of itself demographically. And we need to make sure that vertically integrated, that our city reflects that diversity, gender, ethnicity, points of view, We need liberals and conservatives on the city council. We need both. And let me tell y'all something. Elephant in the room, all right? I'm the third generation in my family to go to college. I'm only the first generation to grow up without having to use separate water fountains from white folks. We don't talk about the reality of things and how difficult it is and how much of a challenge it is, even today, to diversify our city council, our boards and commissions, our communities in general. It's hard work, and it takes a priority from the very top.
On our next question, we're going to talk a little bit about how the things operate. And so the question is, what if anything, would you like to change about how the city council and the city's boards and commissions operate? That's the question. And we get to start with Nathan again.
Personally, I feel that the boards and the council, how they operate, more transparency to the public, either via blog posts, videos, more recordings, anything that goes on behind locked doors. If it has to do with the council or for any board, that those are representatives of the city, so the city needs to be informed of that.
Okay. Dwight.
I think the city council is moving in the right direction in many aspects of improving our boards and commissions. They're making efforts to reach out and diversify. They are making efforts to make sure that there's new blood. We can talk about whether or not it makes sense to do term limits or not. I'm not sure about that, but in ways to bring in new blood and diversify is great. And also, we can do task forces. Like there's a diversity task force that don't have to be in existence forever. The council's going to do a special committee on Central Business District, as we talked about today. Those are opportunities to get more and more people involved in the process.
Thank you. Darren?
Yep, so there's nothing broke with how our city government is run by any means. You look at Chief Boyd and the vaccine setup that he did at the high school, just an outstanding job. About the only thing that I want to look at for change is possibly, I want to look at the option of adding a second planning and zoning commission, so just simply to expedite some of the decision-making we can for our local business owners and those wanting to come here.
Thank you. And Andre?
Just more than anything, I think would be communication and transparency with our city council and the board members, making sure that the community is very aware of, the business at hand and making sure the citizens are aware of things that the city council are voting on, whether it be rejuvenating the downtown or housing, making sure that the citizens are aware of what's going on and making sure that they vote.
Okay, thank you. And the last question that we have gives you, as a candidate, a chance to talk about yourself, which is always a good thing as a candidate. And that is, how does your professional and/or volunteer background help prepare you for a city council position? Professional volunteer experience prepare you for a city council position. And Darren, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so I kind of covered some of that professionally in my intro. So I'm responsible to make sure that about $250 million of revenue keeps coming in the company that I work for every single year. So there's a great deal of responsibility that comes with that. So your critical thinking, your general aptitude, it has to be at the right place, or you're going to fail miserably. So being able to take that and bring that to city council, I just think it's going to be a great asset, because over the years, I don't necessarily see that skill set being applied in some of our decision-making at the council level. So I'm excited to bring that skill set.
All right, thank you. Andre?
As I said, I'm a health professional, been a health professional for 18 years as a physical therapist, and with the goal of trying to improve Allen's health overall by looking at every aspect of the city of Allen, whether it be the pandemic, whether it be the downtown area, whether it be our public officials, public employees. Just trying to make sure that everyone is diverse and trained properly.
Thank you. Nathan?
My professional experience is I'm in IT for over 10 years now. I have managed small teams, I've managed large teams. Before that, through high school and college, I was in the service industry, waiting tables, working retail. So I've run the gambit as far as the residents. I haven't run a large business. I have been a part of large companies, but I personally feel that I'm more closer, more down to earth with the rest of the residents and citizens of Allen. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dwight?
Tim, I'm glad I get to talk about what I do for a living, finally. Y'all, I am the treasurer of Dallas Area Rapid Transit. It's a culmination of my public sector and private sector career, all of which, every job I've had out of grad school have had something to do with managing or the public sector, finance, whatever. I am in charge of investments for our agency. I'm in charge of $700 million in cash and investments. I'm in charge of grant administration. Every year, we typically bring in over $100 million in grant funds. That's actually the size of Allen's operating budget, by the way. I'm in charge of $3.1 billion of debt. And when we go out and issue debt, I'm in charge of getting in front of the rating agencies. Usually, I'm in front of an analyst whose boss I trained. So.
Well, thank you. That's the questions we had for now. We have one more question. We're going to let you conclude by any kind of closing statement that you'd like. But I do want to thank all the candidates for their time this evening. We've all been through a very difficult and complicated year, would be an understatement, for everybody listening and watching. And it's also been very difficult, I'm sure, for you just to campaign for office in an awkward world that we're in. But this is what I think a perfect opportunity for the residents of Allen to see our candidates and to hear from them. And we do appreciate you taking the time to sit in front of the microphone and answer some questions for our residents. And so our final question, we're going to start with Dwight. Our final question is basically just tell us what you'd like to conclude with. We have 1 minute closing remarks of, there you go.
If you have seen my signs, they're weird. They say fiscally conservative with a positive, with a progressive vision. I am purposely running a campaign that is bipartisan because that's where the votes are. And I am committed to helping the city govern itself nonpartisan because over 90, 95% more of everything a city does is not partisan. It's not an ROD way to fix a road. You just fix the road. I got that from one of my professors at the LBJ school, who was a city manager. I am running a positive campaign that seeks to bring people together, not take advantage of any negativity and any type of feelings in the community that would tear people apart. We are council members, if I'm elected, we are council members for people that live in single-family homes, who are upper middle class, who live in multifamily units, poor, everybody. That's who we are. We represent everybody.
Thank you, Dwight. Andre.
As I've stated, my goal is just to improve the overall health of Allen. I've been a CEO of a day therapy for 4 years now. That's managing a small business in every aspect, as far as hiring, to training, the budget, every aspect of business. So incorporating my experience as CEO of a small company and my experience as a healthcare professional, my profession is service. It's what it is. It's service at its core. And so I look forward to improving the overall health status of Allen, Texas.
Thank you. Nathan.
All right, thank you. I'll keep it short. My priorities are to enable the freedoms of people by removing the burdens and regulations that prohibit us all from making our own decisions. Thank you for your time, and I hope you consider me for council.
Okay, and Darren.
Mr. Tim Carroll, thank you for moderating the forum. Thank you, everyone at home, for watching. The success that I've seen in my professional career comes from making commitments and following through with those commitments. I stand by my commitments. It's really the only way I know how to do things. So if you truly want to lower the property taxes on your home, I'm your candidate for place one. If you want to put an end to new apartments being approved by the city council, I'm your candidate for place one. If you're against mass transit and expanding DART in Allen, I'm your candidate for place one. And if you expect your city government to be more fiscally responsible and transparent, I'm your candidate for place one. If you believe that Allen is a best-in-class city and that it deserves best-in-class leadership, then I am your candidate for place one. My name is Darren Mice. I'd appreciate your vote.
Thank you, Darren, and thank you to all the candidates. This concludes our session for Allen City Council Place 1. We want to thank you all for being here, of course, and answering the questions. We're going to start with the session for Place 3 shortly. We appreciate those who are viewing out there in TV land to stick around and hear from the rest of the candidates as well. Thank you, everybody. This concludes our first round. I want to welcome everybody to the forum for candidates for Allen City Council. Before we begin, we're going to go over a few ground rules, and this is the forum for candidates running for Place 3. Forum's being recorded, just so you know. It'll be available for viewing in its entirety on ACTV, and a link to the video will be provided to each candidate, and to the Rotary Club of Allen and the Sunrise Rotary as well, and the local social media platforms. Our goal is to get this out to as many people as we can because we know there's been kind of a lack of public events because of COVID, and so we feel this is a good opportunity to get people out in the public. Members of the public, speaking of, had the opportunity to submit questions via email. Any questions submitted have been screened and may have been combined or reworded for questions that were similar to each other. Candidates will be able to give opening remarks in the order in which they're listed on the ballot. Then you also have closing remarks, which we'll do in reverse order. During the course of the questions, there's random speaking order, which we've figured out through some magical formula. And all candidate statements will be timed, and we have timekeeper down here in the front, Marty Warda. And we'll display signs to indicate the time remaining so you have an idea of where things are going with that. So we ask you to try to be respectful to the time. And when your time's up, and really that's all we've got to go with. So we have several candidates. For those watching, we have several candidates that are here. We have several candidates. We have two candidates who are unable to be here at this time. So first of all, I want to introduce Joey Harold, Lauren Daugherty, and Dave Cornett. There are three candidates that are here. And then the other two candidates running for Place 3 are Joseph Jackson and Kenneth Weinberg. So each candidate will have 2 minutes for opening statements. And when I call your name, you get to take your 2 minutes. And so we're going to start with Joey Harold.
Hi, my name is Joey Harold. I appreciate you holding this event, and I appreciate everybody considering me for Allen City Council Place 3. You probably already are somewhat aware of me. I have served on the Allen City Council before. I was a member from 2008 to 2017. I've lived in Allen for over 25 years and in Collin County for most of my life. I am very involved in the community at a variety of levels. I have served not only on the City Council but on the Economic Development Corporation for a number of years. I'm a past president of the Allen Kiwanis Club, a co-founder of the Allen CERT team and trainer for them. I have served in Boy Scouts, the American Red Cross with blood drives. I believe in a servant leadership style of government. I think that the more that we serve in the community, the more that we know each other, the better capable we are of serving in a sense that we understand the needs a little better. And so during my time on City Council, I was, I think, someone who came in with a common sense approach. And now I think there's a time for adding common sense to common decency and to add back our common values that we have together. I'm well experienced with the history of Allen and how we got here and where we need to be going. And I think that there's opportunities to work together to bring Allen back together in a unified fashion that seems to be pulling in different directions over the last few years. And so I thank you for this event, the opportunity to have my opinions known on how things are going, and would hope that you would consider Joey Harold for Allen City Council, Place 3. My website is allenisgreat.com because I think Allen is great. Thank you.
Thank you. Lauren.
Hi, and thank you for inviting me to participate in this forum today. My name is Lauren Doherty, and I'm running for re-election to Allen City Council. I've lived here in Allen for 16 years with my husband and my 2 boys, both of whom were born right here in Allen. In that time, I've committed myself to public service through CASA of Collin County, PTA, Collin County Homeless Coalition, and a number of other roles, as well as serving on City Council those last 3 years. My professional career prior to moving to Texas was in management consulting and financial analysis. All of these experiences have contributed to the person I am today and have given me the tools to be an effective council member. When I was elected 3 years ago, I promised to be accessible to my constituents, to work on diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives in our city, and to work with our city to make environmentally sound decisions. I feel I have accomplished much of what I set out to do, but I would love to be able to earn your vote for another 3 years to continue the work. I'm especially proud of the work I've done to communicate with our residents about what at the city is important to them, as well as to seek input about how I vote. But I believe there's always more that can be done. If given the opportunity to serve on the City Council for another 3 years, I will continue to listen to your concerns and take them into account when I vote. Our residents have always been and will always be my first priority.
Thank you. And our third candidate, Dave Cornett.
Good evening. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for having me here. Really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. My name is Dave Cornett, and I am running for Allen City Council Place number 3. A little bit about myself. I am a 100% disabled Persian Gulf War vet. Almost 10 years service to my country in the Army and National Guard. I attained the rank of Sergeant E5. I was a squad leader, as well as a section sergeant. So I have leadership skills from the military. A little bit about myself locally. I am on the board for the Allen Heritage Guild. I am on the Collin County Historical Commission, 3 different committees through that. I was vendor lead for Better Block, so I really understand our CBD Central Business District and the special needs for that. I'm also on the DIPC committee for the AISD, that is the Development Improvement Planning Committee for the Allen Independent School District. A couple of my visions here in Allen is I think we're a safe and secure community. I like to keep it that way. I would never defend the police. I'm telling you right now, we are going to work for a no new revenue tax rate. There's no reason why we should not be there. Apartments, that's another thing. I hear a lot, out campaigning, I hear a lot of you talking about the density of Allen. We're overcrowded, and we are. We got over 4,000 people per square mile here in Allen. As a matter of fact, Allen is the most dense community in Collin County. It's even denser than Dallas. DART, I hear a lot of people don't want the mass transit. We tried it once. Luckily, it was through a grant. It failed. It didn't cost us any money. Next time it will. And I'm going to be the only one here tonight. I'm telling you right now, I'll listen to you. I will listen to my constituents. I will not vote to widen Alma Road. My name is Dave Cornett. I'm running for Allen City Council, place number 3, and I appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and start with the questions now. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer the question. And we're going to start with, what changes would you like to see in Allen, and what would you do to make those changes happen? And we're going to start with Joey Harold.
Thank you. During my time on City Council prior, I was the board liaison and board member of the Allen Economic Development Corporation. At that point, we had approximately only 50% of our commercial land had been developed at that point, and my goal was to see businesses and job opportunities provided for the citizens. But in essence, I really wanted them to start coming in so that we could lower our tax rate for individuals, homeowners. And so I believe that has been accomplished now. We've done very well with the business community. There's still room for improvement off of 121 in our central business district, which should develop. But I think I'd like to see the effective tax rate as well. And besides that, I think that the change that we really need may not be a policy as much as a sense of community that we may be losing coming back together.
Dave?
Yes, I agree that, like I said in my opening remarks, that no new revenue tax rate. For too long, the tax burden has been on the homeowners here in Allen. Definitely want to see the CBD Central Business District actually come to fruition. As I said before, I was the vendor lead for Better Block. I'm very vested in that. I'm very excited about the possibilities down there, and I would hope that we can get something together. It's going to take some time. It's not going to happen overnight. As well, as like I said before, I'd like to see some business expansion. We need to get more businesses here in Allen, and that's starting to happen, thank goodness, over in the 121 corridor, and we got the corner up there in Monarch City. I'd like to see something done with that, and I'd like to see if we can push something through.
And Lauren?
These last 3 years, I've spent a lot of time building up a rapport with the community and creating a sense of community engagement through social media and through in-person talks with the residents. I do believe that we've accomplished some of what I'd like to see, but I think that community engagement needs to be increased, and so that our residents feel like they have a say in our decision-making. We are starting to create more task force that involve the residents and different decision-making with respect to the downtown area, diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, our various new building projects like the Steve Terrell Rec Center, and I love that, and I'd like to see a lot more of that happening in the future. I think community engagement, getting our decision-making straight from the residents is really important for our governance.
Thank you. Our next question kind of drills down a little bit on something most of you have already mentioned, and that is, what are your views on residential development in the city, particularly what actions do you think should be taken by City Council, if any, related to residential development? And we'll start with Dave.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I do believe in property owner rights, so I want to make that clear at the start. But I don't see no reason to, like we just recently did, rezone commercial and business until you get more apartments. I'm out there every weekend. I'm out there most weekdays as well, knocking on doors, talking to people, engaging. My phone dies 2 or 3 times a day because of text messages and phone calls that I receive. People don't want more apartments. I hear you. I understand, and I agree with you. You will have somebody on City Council that actually listen to you and back you up if you elect me. Thank you.
Joey?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Gladly. What are your views on residential development in the city, and what actions, if any, should be taken by City Council related to that?
So, as a residential real estate broker, there's not a lot of opportunities for development of additional residential units at this point, other than the multifamily, and those should be done, I think, kind of sparingly. I think over the years here we've actually pushed maybe a little bit too far on some certain areas, but in general, Allen is a wonderful place that people want to be in, so we want to do that. Last night in a conversation with some school board members, they didn't realize that the technical review committee that looks at these apartments funnels back through them. I told them that we always get schools' permission before anything would be considered, and they hadn't realized that as well. They hadn't been receiving those same messages. So we definitely need to open the communications between us and our community partners to make certain that we do have opportunities to discuss the best residential needs that would affect our schools and our other partners throughout the community.
And Lauren?
Sure. I think with residential development, we are very close to build out there, but the residential development that's coming needs to follow market demand. Market demand has changed over the course of the existence of Allen, and we've gone from most people wanting to live in single-family homes to people wanting to be able to buy townhomes and other folks wanting to be able to rent. So I do think we need to follow the market there. But also I'd like to see us focus our efforts on revitalizing our aging neighborhoods. We have a lot of neighborhoods that are coming up on 25 years and that is when you start to see neighborhoods start to decline. And we have just created a new position and a new department in the city of Allen that's going to focus on revitalizing our aging neighborhoods, and I'm really excited to see what they're planning to do and how they're planning to bring those neighborhoods up to the standards of the other newer neighborhoods in Allen.
Good. Speaking of neighborhoods, our third question is, what are your thoughts on economic development activities, particularly in respect to the Central Business District? And Ms. Doherty, we'll start with you.
Well, right now, our Economic Development Corporation has been given a charge to bring in Class A office space, and I think they've done an excellent job of that. We're seeing a lot of Class A office space come into Allen along the 121 corridor. Once that vision has completed, I think we need to change our charge and start thinking about our aging commercial areas, one of which is our downtown area. Economic development can incentivize the kinds of businesses and retail and restaurant that we'd like to see come into the downtown area. And I think that those things are going to be coming up through our task force that will be created by the mayor, and that's going to be visioning what the community would like to see for our downtown area. So I think that's what we should do with our economic development.
Mr. Cornett.
I'm going to echo that about the CBD, especially with me being on the Better Block Committee. Where do you have the groundwork for a vision for that? Look forward to continuing that with the new committee that's coming out. Something that's walkable, family-friendly, something that in my hopes, and I know other people's as well, is talking to them about this issue, something where small businesses, mom and pops, can flourish. And it'd be great to be able to tap EDC to help in that. I think that's what EDC is here to do, is to help build. And there's no reason why they couldn't get involved. Also, to touch on what Ms. Doherty was just about the east side, the aging neighborhood. I live on the east side, so I understand that problem. I live that problem. It's not a normal month if the sewer truck doesn't show up out front and lift the lid and do their thing in the hole. These are definitely issues that people on the aging side of the town want addressed, and we need it addressed. With me living on the east side, I understand this. Thank you.
And Mr. Harold.
I would love easy answers to difficult questions. They don't really exist. I've watched the Central Business District for a number of years. I have been part of conversations for a long time on it, and the city has invested already considerable into that community. They've put in the library, we've got the Heritage Village, the skate park. They've put in new roads where normally we'd expect a developer to take some of that cost. They've done a lot of great things there. We've got a couple developers who want to work with us, but typically EDC has not invested in retail or restaurants. I mean, those things come naturally. They want to be in Allen. They want to have those. And so the EDC needs to invest in some type of office that would draw people in so that the others would want to be there in that area as well. It's a blank slate. It really is. It can still be wonderful, a walkable environment that everybody loves to be in, but yet there needs to be a nice master plan put together.
Thank you. Next question. How should the City Council balance the tax rate with the delivery of high-quality services? Balance the tax rate with the delivery of high-quality services in Allen. And Joey, we'll start with you.
So when I first got on council back in '08, we actually jumped into a recession right there. And I remember the Dallas Morning News created a little comic that had Allen's cars zipping along while the cities of Plano, McKinney, and Frisco were there looking like they were working on their broken automobiles. We were one of the only cities that was able to maintain a positive budget during that time because it has been built that way. We are a city that has excelled at budgeting over the years and have won many awards for that. We also listen to the residents. They've passed a couple of bonds during the time that I was on council saying we want a nicer library, we want better roads, we want to spend money on art and public safety and those things. And I think we've been able to balance that very well because we keep an eye on the long term as well as the here and now.
Thank you. Lauren?
Sure. Balancing the tax rate with the services, we can definitely do that by bringing in more corporate and business partners into Allen. The more business partners that come into Allen, the lower we can drop the rate for our residents. Corporations, they would be able to pay their fair share, and we would be able to drop the rate for everyone. Otherwise, I think what we need to do is just look at our tax rate the way it is, and decide whether or not there are services that we can cut that won't impact our residents. I would love to get input from the residents about whether or not there are services out there that they don't feel that are necessary anymore. I haven't heard about any yet in my 3 years here, so I'd be hesitant to cut any of our services. And as far as I know, the budget is what pays for those services. So in order to balance them, we need to bring in the enough revenue to pay for them. So it's a tough decision, but I think if we bring in corporate partners, we'll be able to lower the tax rate for everybody.
Okay. And Dave?
I definitely stand by what I said earlier about the no new revenue tax rate on that. But in my elevator speech, I start off with, my name is Dave Cornett, and I mean business. And when I say that, I'm talking about, let's get some businesses in Allen. The financial burden has been on homeowners' back for way too long. We don't even have a homestead exemption tax for people at 65 and over. That's just wrong. We can't afford to do it right now, so we need to make it to where we can. And the answer to that, one of the keys is bringing in businesses. Also, if you look at the event center, a lot of times that's just sitting there idle. We've got a diamond in a rough and it's just sitting there without the lights on. Makes no sense to me. We got a great golf course. Now this year it made money, but in the past it's cost us money. Why? We need to look at turning a profit in those two areas that will greatly add to the city coffers.
Okay. Thank you. Next question for everyone. What will you do to ensure that diverse populations in Allen feel welcome and safe in our city, and that diverse populations have a voice in city government? And we'll start with Lauren.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion has always been one of the 3 pillars of my platform. It's very important to me that everyone in every community in Allen feels that they are included and that they are being treated equitably. I believe that starts from the top down. Representation matters. We need to see more people from different communities represented on our council and on our boards and commissions and in leadership roles throughout the city, employees and whatnot. I think once we get those diverse perspectives in leadership, then naturally we will be able to make people feel more welcome and more included. Without those perspectives, no one can stand in the shoes of the people who are not represented, and so they won't be given the voice that they deserve.
Dave.
Yes, that has been a cornerstone of my campaign, actually. I've reached out to several different, not only religions, but races and ethnic groups. And when I first heard about this, the diversity board they're having, I got a couple of them to actually apply for the board because there's such a large population in our community, but yet they don't even have the first idea, first clue of city government. They don't know who to ask to get on some of these boards. So I've been more than happy to nominate a few of them. And also to work into my campaign, and they've been a bedrock of my campaign. And I would like to continue that relationship once I am elected, because once again, we are a diverse community and they just don't know how to get involved, and I'm going to be that guiding light for them.
And Joey.
You know, I often look at diversity as more of a matter of the heart than I do on looking at the outside of somebody. I think that is what I see, and I think it all starts with each of us individually. Prejudice and hatred really have no part of our community, but we tend to let the world divide us in 100 different ways. I think that's wrong. I don't know that the city can fix all the problems. However, at the city, we should have the ability to create a fair and equal treatment to any and everybody as far as city services are concerned. And I applaud what Mayor Falk and the council is doing right now with the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council and trying to make certain that there is nothing that would keep the city of Allen from being a leader in those matters. And so I think that you first have to look at yourself in the mirror and decide, how much do I really love my neighbor?
Next question. What, if anything, would you like to change about how the city council and the city boards and commissions operate? And Joey, will ask that question to you first.
You know, I guess that changed last night when I was talking with some school board members, and they said, I didn't realize that the city worked with our school board, our school district on the matters of new development, stuff like that. So I thought to myself, having more open meeting communications, we have quarterly meetings, I guess 3 times a year, meetings with them, but we don't have a chance to talk, really. And I think, honestly, when we work together, when we have a meal together, things like that, we get to know each other better. And I think it's the same thing with our boards and commissions. I would always go to the boards and commissions that I was assigned to as the liaison. And I think it really made a big difference because we were able to really get beyond, you know, a position and get to know each other on a very personal level.
Okay. Thank you. Lauren?
Yeah, I think it goes back to my initial answer to the question, which was all about community engagement. I think that the more people we can engage from the community, the better our decisions will be. So I'd love to see our boards and commissions expanded. There are several boards and commissions that we could create. A youth commission would be one of them. And of course, the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Task Force, I'm hoping will create a permanent Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Board under the city's umbrella. And I'm sure that there are residents out there that have ideas for commissions that I haven't even thought of, and I'd love to hear what they are. So expanding them and actually utilizing them as representatives of the community to bring in new ideas for us. I think if they bring in new ideas and we listen to our residents about what they'd like to see in our community, then we'll only be the better for it.
Thank you. And Dave?
I don't think the answer is bigger government, more committees. Win, lose, or draw, I'm still going to be engaged in the community. So like I said earlier, my phone dies 2-3 times a day because of all the text messages and phone calls I receive. I'm always gone, it seems like, at this meeting or whatnot. That's not going to change. And I think I would task each member of city council to do the same. Bigger government's not the answer, but each member of city council being more engaged and more involved with the community, I think that's where we should be, and that's where I will be. Like I said, win, lose, or draw, that's where I will be. Thank you.
Thank you. And our last full question gives you a chance to talk about yourselves, and that is, how does your professional or volunteer background help prepare you for a city council position? Dave, we start with you.
Okay. I am the past junior vice, senior vice, and commander of the Plano VFW post. I am the current junior vice commander and was informed today that I may be the next post commander. While in the military, like I said before, I was a Sergeant E5 promotable. I was a squad leader, a section sergeant. Talk about operating and leading under pressure. You know, definitely can. Even in jobs, even if I was just a temp job, I always found myself rising to the top and management always leaning on me to lead the crew or get a job done, whether it was making parts for the Pontiac G6 or sweeping floors at a factory, whatever the job was. I've always had that take responsibility, take the lead type mentality. My dad was a Persian, I'm a Persian Gulf War veteran. My dad was Vietnam. My grandfather was World War II. It's just kind of in our blood. So, sorry, I'm out of time.
Thank you. Joey?
You know, for years I would be on the board of reviews for Eagle Scouts. And I was always asking them the question that I thought was most important for me to understand from them. I said, is it more important to be a good leader or a good follower? And of course, they've just done a leadership project, so of course they're always flooding to the leadership side. It's always about leadership, and I would say, you know, in life you will find that you are going to be a follower 9 times more than you're going to be a leader. And I think that my service in the community has always been that of wherever I was needed. If I was needed on a highway cleanup, or if helping paint a house, or fix a fence, or help some elderly neighbors of mine. I think that's what has set me apart, in that I roll up my sleeves. I'm not worried about who gets the credit or where the leadership comes from. It's all about doing what is needed to be done so that we become better neighbors and better community.
And Lauren?
My career back in the day, before I became a mother, I was in finance and management consulting. So I learned from that how to read budgets, how to read profit and loss statements, and how to analyze and improve performance for the future. And I think that's been really important for me on the City Council as we analyze the budget and decide how we're going to prioritize our budget needs. In addition to that, my experience on PTA, I think there's probably a lot of moms out there watching this who understand that PTA is probably one of the most difficult boards that you'll ever serve on, because there's a lot of people in the room that have a lot of strong opinions and a lot of drama, and that, I have to say, has been probably the best preparation for City Council. This is a job that a lot of people don't understand and think that we're getting paid to do, or think that we get some kind of powerful rights out of it, but actually it's a volunteer job, and I'm out of time.
We have one more question. We'll give you another chance to speak. But before we do that, I just want to thank all of our candidates for being here this evening. It's been a very difficult year, as I mentioned earlier, for everybody, and I'm sure campaigning is a little more difficult than it normally would be because of the COVID circumstances. So we appreciate you taking the time here, and we hope that a lot of our voters get to watch this video and learn a little bit more personally about the candidates that are here this evening. So to that end, I'd like to give each of you an opportunity to just basically close comments on anything that you'd like to say for the last minute. So we'll start with Dave.
Thank you. I appreciate your vote on May 1st, and I hope I've earned it. If you want a candidate that cares about safety and security of your community, that will never defund the police, I'm your candidate. If you want a candidate that will stand by his word and say that when he says no new revenue rate and will deliver on that, I'm your candidate. Same thing with apartments. We're dense. We don't, population-wise, we're already dense enough. We don't need to be denser. We definitely don't need apartments in existing neighborhoods. If that's what your vision is, those are the candidates for you to vote for. If not, I'm your candidate. We tried mass transportation here in Allen not too long ago. It failed miserably. Thank goodness it was a grant and it didn't cost us any money. I will stand firm against no mass transportation. And as I stated before, I will not widen Alma Road. I know that's a concern to a lot of people, maybe not everybody, but I know it is a concern to a lot. Will not vote to widen Alma Road. Thank you.
Thank you. Lauren.
I'd just like to say thank you again for inviting me to participate in this forum. I hope that something I've said has resonated with you. Allen is a wonderful place to live, work, and play, but that doesn't mean that we can't always strive to be better. I want to keep Allen a wonderful and safe place to live and work. I'd like to see Allen become an example to our North Texas neighbors of sustainable growth and environmentally friendly decision-making, and a place where everyone feels valued and included. Allen also needs to work hand in hand with our neighboring cities and governments to create a successful regional economy. If you want to see a solutions-oriented, data-driven council member remain on Allen City Council, vote for Lauren for Place 3 on May 1st.
Thank you. Joey.
You know, I'm probably the most known quantity to many of the people out there. You know where I come from. You know what I've done over the years. I think, for me, I have the acknowledgement that I'm not the smartest person in the room. I'm not even the smartest person in my house, and so I depend upon a lot of other people to help me to understand what's necessary. So I don't come in already with a pre-established agenda of what needs to happen or what doesn't need to happen, as much as I want to understand and then seek more knowledge and understanding and make it happen the best way possible. And I will tell you right now, the reason I came back was because I felt like we're being pulled to the left and to the right, and in reality, it's just a bunch of neighbors trying to be good neighbors to one another. And I think that I want to bring back Allen and let DC and Austin and other places be themselves. We are a great place. Allen is wonderful. Allen is great. And I would appreciate your vote when it comes to May 1st. Thank you.
Thank you. And once again, I want to thank all three of our candidates, and we do appreciate your time. This concludes our session for Allen Council Place number 3 forum, and good luck in the upcoming election. Early voting begins April 19th, Election Day, May 1st. Thank you. Welcome to the Forum for Candidates for Allen City Council, Place 5. Before we begin, we're going to go over a few of the ground rules, and it's a pleasure to be here. I'm Tim Carroll. The forum is being recorded. It will be available for viewing in its entirety on ACTV, and a link to the video will be provided for all of the candidates and the Rotary Club of Allen and Sunrise Rotary, as well as local social media platforms. Our goal is to get this out and let as many people in the community that want to see it have access to it. Members of the public had the opportunity to submit questions via email. Any questions submitted have been screened and may have been combined or reworded if the topics were similar. Candidates will give opening remarks in the order in which they are listed on the ballot. Their closing remarks will be in reverse order, and they've been assigned random speaking order throughout the evening for questions, and the speaking order will vary, of course. All candidate statements will be timed, and we have a timekeeper down in the front with that sign right there. And he'll wave it at you if necessary. And candidates, please stop promptly when your time's up and to be respectful to the other candidates. And other than that, we're going to go ahead and start. So what I'd like to do first is introduce the candidates that are here. First, we have Diane Martin. We have Dave Schaefer, Philip Brewer, and unable to participate in the forum, we have Edson Mariba. So we're going to start with the opportunity for a 2-minute opening statement, and we're going to start with Miss Diane Martin.
Hi, I'm Diane Martin, and I'm running for City Council, Place 5. I've been in Allen for about 8 years, Texas around about 10 years, and I'm a native Texan. And I moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and I resonated in Decatur, Georgia, and I'm back. And I would like to give my service to the citizens of Allen.
Dave Schaefer.
My name's Dave Schaefer. I'm running for Allen City Council, Place 5. I have lived in Allen since 1993, with the exception of late 2005 to mid-2009, as a single father of 2 teenage girls. When the time came to decide where my daughters were going to go to school and where they were going to grow up, I immediately realized that the decision was made the day I left Allen. We were going back to Allen. I am running on a platform of increased public safety, putting a stop to the rampant urbanization of Allen, and residential property tax reform.
And Philip Brewer.
Thank you. I first want to say thank you to the Friends of the Library, the Allen Rotary Club, Tim, for you moderating. It's a privilege to be here tonight. My name is Philip Brewer. I'm running for Allen City Council, Place 5. Been a resident of Allen for 6 years. My wife, Christy, and I moved here honestly because we were looking for a place to raise our family. We have 4 kiddos, and Allen is where we decided to call home. And we're here for the long run to see those kids grow up and graduate from Allen High School. But I'm running for City Council because I care about this community. Since I've been here, I've been actively involved in various service functions. And, as a father and as a husband, I care about the safety of my family and my neighbors. I want to make sure Allen remains one of the safest cities in the country. As a business leader and resident, I want to make sure that we have prudent budget management, good stewardship of taxpayer money. And I want to make sure as a resident of this community, that I'm an active participant, that I listen, that everyone in this community feels like they have a voice. And that they can be heard, and they have a seat at the table to help shape our future and the future of what Allen's going to be. I think it's important to take all that into consideration. And those are the things that are important to me and why I'm running. And I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight.
Okay, thank you. We're going to ask the questions that have come from the community. And the first question is, what changes would you like to see in Allen, and what would you do to make that happen, or those happen? The first, what changes would you like to see most happen in Allen, and how would you like to see that happen? And we're going to start with Diane Martin.
The changes I would like to see is the community, like I live in, to reach out to our neighbors to know each other. Not to necessarily get into their business, but just to know their name and to check on one another. And I would also like to see Allen more diversified as far as restaurants, businesses, you know, just more camaraderie.
Okay. Thank you. Philip?
Yes, so, I think Allen's a pretty great place to live. So there's not a whole lot that I think we need to change. But with any great community, I think there's always room for improvement. And, one of the things that I feel very passionate about is ensuring that, community is engaged, making sure they feel like they are able to participate, in our government, in the decisions that are being made, making sure that we have leaders that are open to listening and, are engaged and want to be responsive to the needs of our community. And, and I think there's always room for improvement in communication. I think communication and relationships are really key to any successful organization, whether that's a corporation or government. So that's what I would like to see.
Okay, thank you. And then Dave, almost left you out. Dave, I apologize. Dave Schaefer.
Not a
Sorry.
problem. So when I look at Allen and what I see needs to change, I see the rampant urbanization. And by that, I mean multifamily apartment buildings on every corner, it seems like. I see the east side of Allen basically being forgotten about. When I first moved here in 1993, there was a Walmart on Greenville Avenue. There was a Winn-Dixie. There was a Food Lion on Bethany. You could leave your neighborhood and walk to a grocery store. You can't do that anymore on the east side, and we need to revamp it. So I guess that would be the number one thing we need to change. Thank you.
Okay. Next question, which falls into some of the similar category. What are your views on residential development in the city, and what action, if any, do you feel should be taken by the city council? And we'll start with Diane.
I would like to see more houses, more single-family houses. I would like to see an area that even caters to tiny houses. Because here in Allen, the prices are going up. And it's unaffordable for a lot of people, like teachers, the firefighters, the policemen. We need affordable housing. And it needs to be more affordable. But it's, we have to have housing, not apartments. We have enough apartments.
Okay. Dave?
So I would actually agree with Diane on the part that we have enough apartments. As far as future residential, we do need to focus on single family. What the council can do for that is have a moratorium on new apartment building developments and apartment complex developments in favor of single-family residences. Now, there are some areas where they could technically build by what's called by right, where they would not need a council approval. However, if there is such a place and there are no known plans for development, that zoning could potentially be changed back over from multifamily, mixed-use, corridor commercial to single-family residential.
Okay. Philip?
Could you repeat the question for me?
Certainly. What are your views on residential development in the city, and what action, if any, do you feel should be taken by the city council?
Okay. So, I tend to lean back on the city's 2030 comprehensive plan. And in that plan that was, brought together from input from residents and council and city leaders and business owners, there was a design there to meet all housing needs. And that included a mix of single family, that included a mix of garden homes, townhomes, and some multifamily. And if you look at that plan, you look at our zoning, there's not really a lot of space left for multifamily. I think that how things are zoned, we need to leave intact and stick with our plan. But in terms of changes, I don't favor any zoning changes to add any multifamily. I think we need to stick with the plan, see it through, and really focus on our commercial development, which will really help offset the tax burden to our residential homeowners.
Along that same line then, the next question, what are your thoughts on economic development in Allen, and especially with respect to Allen's Central Business District? And Dave, we'd like you go first.
Well, anybody that's paid attention into Allen in the last couple of years saw the fiasco with the Central Business District a couple of years ago and the one developer. I would believe, to me, I would say that the current board, the CBD board, Central Business District Board, needs to be changed from having 5 city staffers on there to having all resident members. And I would say at least 2 to 3 of those members should actually live in that area. As far as business development, I don't have a problem with business. I'm a small business owner. I encourage anything that is pro-small business, but there are certain areas that we should have it versus areas that we should not. And anywhere where we place it, we definitely need to bring in the citizens, particularly the ones that live in that particular area where somebody proposes putting a new business.
Philip.
So for economic development, I think we've got a great economic development corporation. I think they've done a lot of good work. I think they're continuing to do good work. I think corporate development, again, is going to be really key to our long-term growth, but more so long-term as far as what the tax burden looks like for residents. That 121 corridor is extremely important for that use to help shift some of that taxpayer burden more corporate from residential. But in terms of the CBD, the Central Business District, it's a puzzle. It's an area that's got multiple property owners, city developers, homeowners, business owners, and I respect the rights of property owners. And so I think we've got a complicated, puzzle ahead of us, but I think it starts with conversation. There is a task force that's being developed right now that will consist of residents to begin tackling and researching that project. And I think that's where we start. We start with research and communication.
Okay, thank you. And Diane.
Okay, for the Central Business District, we need to have a committee that's going to work with each other. Because the property owners have a right and the businesses have a right. But I say put small businesses there. Then the small businesses will bring in the money.
Okay. Thank you. How should the City Council balance the tax rate and the delivery of high-quality services? Balance the tax rate and the delivery of high-quality services. We'll start with Philip.
Yeah, so recently with the passing of Senate Bill 2, that kind of gives us some groundwork for the no new revenue rate. I think that's a good place to start. Have that as the goal as a council to keep that tax rate as low as possible, stick to the no new revenue rate. However, I think we've got to look at the needs of the city. And, as an example, the tax rate is 0.484 is the no new revenue. Allen's is 0.485. For the average homeowner, that's a difference of about $4 a year. And contrary to that, if you were to stick with that no new revenue rate, you'd be having to look at budget line cuts. I think trying to balance that is going to be a challenge, but one that we need to think creatively. Maybe we look at exemptions. Maybe we look at more public-private partnerships to offset some of the tax burden. But I think we've got to keep that as close to the no new revenue rate or at that rate as much as possible.
Dave?
Well, I don't see the no new revenue rate as a goal. I see that as the maximum rate. If we cannot meet that, then there are line items in the budget we absolutely do need to cut. And as far as I'm concerned, there's no excuse for failure. Bottom line is, whether it be our homes or our businesses, we have to work within a budget. We don't get to reach out and just say, hey, I need more money, give it to me. Why does government get to do that? There is no excuse for it whatsoever. I am running on a platform of residential property tax relief. I do not believe we should exceed the no new revenue rate. In fact, I think we need to find line items to cut in order to reduce that property tax rate below the no new revenue rate.
Okay. And Diane?
I agree that we need to reduce the tax rate for homeowners and shift it to big businesses. They are the ones who can handle this. And I'm sorry, I got
okay.
stuck. But, you know, just to shift that, because homeowners pay enough as it is. They don't need to have this tax burden.
Okay. Question number 5. What will you do to ensure that diverse populations feel welcome and safe in the city of Allen and have a voice in city government? And we'll start with Dave.
Right now, the city has every opportunity for anybody of any background to be involved. The only thing you have to do is reach out and ask. You can apply to be on a board. You can apply for any one of the number of jobs that you have. Every city council member that I know of will take the time to speak with you at any given point in time. If I am the one that is elected for Place 5, that is not going to change. I have my personal cell phone number on my campaign page. If elected, I will get a city council dedicated number so that citizens of all nationalities, both genders, et cetera, can reach out to me at any given point in time.
Diane?
To keep it open, because when I came here to Allen, the first thing that I noticed is that the paper came out to my house telling me about the government system and the different entities that I could get into and you can apply for. And I like that. And to promote that even more, and advertisement and letting people know you can come to these meetings. You can come and talk to each person to learn what is needed and what you can get involved with.
And Phil?
Yes. So a couple of things here. One, I think you got to be very intentional. I think to what Diane's, mentioning about communicating. We got 110,000 residents in Allen right now, and just simply, expecting them to know how to engage or where to engage is not enough. We got to be intentional about making sure people know how to get involved in their community and their government. One of the things that Mayor Falk has proposed and that I would fully support as a council member is assembling a task force made up of a mixture of folks from our community to begin to really research and find out, how can we do more to engage all of our residents? How can we make people feel more involved? And before we can really answer that, I think we've got to understand what the people want. We got to understand what needs are out there and what desires our residents have and how they would like to engage. And when we have that information, then we can make a plan that will really help meet those needs. So I would 100% support Ken Falk in his plan for a committee task force to research that.
Thank you. What, if anything, would you like to change in how the city council and the city boards and commissions operate? So what, if anything, would you like to change in how the city council and the city boards or commissions operate? And we'll start with Diane.
I would say just get out the word to each resident, by advertisement, by paper, by letter, however.
Okay. Philip.
So I think we've got a great council. Those that have gone before us have done some tremendous work in the community. We've got great boards and commissions. We've got so much talent in this community. It's unreal, the skill sets that folks bring into our government and on a volunteer basis. But one of the things I would like to see as a council member is just more communication and more transparency. When you've got residents at a council meeting and maybe they have questions or they want to connect sometimes it's difficult to do. I think there should be time built in that allows for interaction with our residents, so the council members have time to actually connect and build relationships, because I think that's what's key. Building relationships in the community is what makes for really strong leadership.
And Dave?
If anything, I would say that many of our boards have a tendency not to listen to what our residents say. For instance, there's one particular board that oversees developments, and they have garnered a reputation for being a rubber stamp to developers. When citizens come in and speak against any particular plan or proposed development, that needs to be taken into more consideration than, okay, thank you, are we ready for a vote? The same thing goes for the council. Now, the council's gotten quite a bit better over the last couple of years about it, but there's definitely room to improve. When citizens come forward and actually speak against something, express a concern, it definitely needs to be taken under consideration before a prearranged vote or a rubber stamp, if you will, is basically put into place.
Okay, thank you. Final question. How does your professional or volunteer background prepare you for a city council position? And we'll start with Philip.
All right. So I've spent the last 20 years in banking and finance, which I think gives me a lot of credibility in terms of looking through budgets and financial documents and understanding how finances work within the city. In addition to that, I've spent a lot of time philanthropically volunteering within this community, serving on various boards and committees with AISD, active leadership within the Allen Fairview Chamber of Commerce. I've sat on the Allen Arts Alliance board previously. And, from every one of those experiences, I've learned about, again, relationships. I've learned about interacting with a wide array of people. I've learned, how to make decisions that aren't in my best interest or a particular group's interest, but in the interest of everyone involved. And, I think that combination of 20 years of finance, banking, leadership, and nonprofit experience certainly gives me the qualifications to lead as a city council member.
Thank you. Diane?
Well, I have 15-plus years of volunteerism, of helping people with the Hosea Feed the Hungry. This was in Georgia when I did this. And I also learned how to help people with their needs and wants, how to get along and whatever. Excuse me. I have a lot of experience as far as traveling and what have you.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought.
We good?
We good.
Dave?
So I've spent the last 13 years as a small business owner in the legal industry. I started off as a process server, then became a private investigator. I'm not only used to looking at budgets, I'm used to working under a shoestring budget and growing a business to where it's actually successful. Furthermore, I am used to the criminal justice system. Most of my career, I've been in criminal defense as an investigator. I know how law enforcement works. I know how they think. I know the code of criminal procedure, penal code. I know what law enforcement is saying when they come to us and they say, we need this, we need that. It's not just a line item on the budget. It's something that they actually need, and there's statistics to back it up, and that is what makes me qualified to lead. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so in wrapping up, we're going to give each of you an opportunity for some closing remarks. But before we do that, I just want to thank you all for being part of this forum. As I mentioned earlier, it's been a crazy year in every way, and I'm confident that campaigning under the circumstances that we have is also very difficult for all of you. So I hope that the opportunity to speak to the community on video helps everybody and helps the community understand more about our candidates. So we do appreciate your time for coming out this evening. So each of you will have 1 minute for closing remarks, and we're going to start with Philip Brewer.
All right. Well, again, thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. So I'm a native Texan. I was born at Baylor Hospital in Dallas, raised in Mesquite, just right down the road. It's a very blue-collar family. I was the first one to attend and graduate college in my household. And, I learned the value of hard work. I learned integrity. I learned honesty. I learned how to work in different environments with compassion and empathy. And, those are the values that guide me. Not any, political party or affiliation. It's what I learned growing up. And that's what I'll bring to council, is someone who will work hard for you as a resident of Allen, who will listen, who will understand, and who will be a straight shooter, honest, full of integrity, and, represent the people of this city.
Thank you. Dave?
So, like Philip, I am a native Texan. I grew up right here in this area, in this city. I am as transparent as they come. You ask me a question, you're going to get the answer. No ands, ifs, or buts about it. You may not like the answer, but you're going to get an honest answer. That's also going to include telling it like it is. I'm not going to claim not to be affiliated with a party and then take private meetings with just that party. You know what party I'm a part of. You know what my political leanings are, and I make no bones about it. So that's what you're going to get from me. Direct honesty. Thank you.
And Diane?
I'm a native Texan. I was born here in Dallas. I went away to Georgia, but I came back. Not only to take care of my mother and my brother, but I'm here to take care of the citizens of Allen. I'm not a politician, as you can clearly see. I get nervous or whatever, just out here speaking, but I'm here. I will take care of your needs if you let me to. I have 15 plus years of community service, and I welcome your vote.
Once again, I want to thank all the candidates. I want to thank the City of Allen staff that helped put this together. Of course, the Friends of the Library, Friends of the Public Library, also the both Rotary clubs in town. A lot of people put time and volunteer work into this, but I especially want to mention Kathy Latinas because she put more time in than anybody. Thank you, Kathy. And we really do appreciate everybody being here. I want to remind all of those who are watching, local elections have a big impact on this community, and they'll have a big impact for many years to come. And so we hope by viewing this forum, you get to learn something more about the candidates, and I strongly, strongly encourage you to vote in this election. Early voting starts on April 19th and runs through April 27th. May 1st is Election Day, and the night of May 1st, we'll all know how this all turns out. But for now, we just want to thank everyone for being here. That concludes our program. Thank you, and good night.